I love balls.
For Lord Cars.
Hear ye. Man to the people.
You know it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our takes like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive.
Analytical preparation, that's what Cars is given. Cars don't discriminate, teaching the men and women. Each and every week, there's nerd to get your focus. Never manipulating stats, lore, cars and hocus pocus. Cars keys, they're never lost. Checking source, never gonna find a better scouting report. Cars going live with the smartest man, my bestie. Deciphering holes on the defense like Getsy. New show, uniforms, orange with the dark sea. Tape never lies, patrons, this is Cars
Keys. You know
Keys.
it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our takes like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. We gotta break down tape like detectives. No hot takes, just real football perspectives. The Bears nerd dropping science on his terms. TTNL giving Bears press like a perm. Other networks is off with the heads. Stats plus film equals football cred. Analysis like Data Ted tries to shred. McCaskey's letting me cake, we keep the 100 crew fed. Cars Keys, let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our takes like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. Lord Hines in his party, fill up a goblet. Lord Hines in his party, fill up a goblet.
And we're back. Cars Keys, Season 1, Episode 11. Another unlocked show to show the masses what we do here. Cars pulled the okie doke on me about 4 minutes before game time. So we wanted to open this up once again for everybody, see what's going on. TTNL Network on the patron side, give you guys just a little bit of a taste as we head down this Week 9 path. But let me bring out my guy here, Mr. Bears Nerd himself. Cars.
What's going on, sir?
I'm back, ready to go, talk some football,
Thank God nothing's happened.
Get my mind off the craziness of real life and get into some football talk. But before we do that, I think we should do this.
Breaking news. The tape never lies. Network breaking news.
Cars. We have a little bit of breaking Chicago Bears news about a certain offensive lineman that's back. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, thanks to friend of the show, Mr. Ryan Cox, in our extra special text chain, he made us aware that a guy by the name of Cody Whitehair is looking to be returning to the starting lineup at left guard this week against the Miami Dolphins. So Schofield has played well, but what a massive upgrade, especially in the pulling game that Cody Whitehair will be.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, with all the hype surrounding all of the trades, this is something that can get kind of cast aside and people are just like, all right, Cody's back. But no, it's really, really big. Schofield is the guy, I don't want to say he's Nick Foles. Nick Foles can come in and blow up for a game or two, maybe even 3 or 4. He's not going to be any type of a long-term guy. And if you can get Cody back in there, it gives you a much stronger option as your quarterback continues to ascend. I think it's great news for this offensive line moving forward. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And with the way that Riley Reif, he played pretty well, all things considered, last week. And we've been kind of talking about the disappointment that has been sort of Larry Borum this year. I think it's nice that he can come in and step in, give Leatherwood some more time to get into shape if he's going to actually play this year or not. It couldn't be coming at a better time with the Dolphins just picking up Bradley Chubb to kind of have, some really good guys lined up left to right.
Yeah, and that's a guy that they inked to a long-term deal today in Bradley Chubb down in Miami. I mean, that's you want to talk about how a trade can really transform your team. You look at the 3 ones that were involved in the trade for Trey Lance. They come away with Bradley Chubb, Cheetah, the man himself from Kansas City, and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
That's quite the trio. I mean, Chubb is a fantastic player. I don't think he's quite lived up to the hype that he had surrounding him.
Not since that first injury. I thought that it was like first and second year he was looking to be.
Yeah.
But he is certainly, since the injuries, he's still very good, but it has really softened that blow. Yeah,
so I know everybody in the chat, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to open this up, because it's, we didn't really know. Cars and I, for weeks, and especially Cars, has been talking and trying to prepare you guys for this trade deadline and scenarios. And if you go back, if you're a TTNL Network patron and listen to what we talked about, we tried to tell you that you were never going to get a 1 for Roquan under the circumstances. So it was always talking about a 2 plus or a 3rd plus type of deal. And if you go back to the last 2 shows, Cars said, don't forget that you can make a deal like this, get that compensation, and whatever premium pick you get back, you can flip to immediately upgrade your roster on the offensive side. And the other day, out of nowhere, that's exactly what we saw Ryan Poles do. And just, we like to keep it 100 here and be honest with you guys. I'm going to tell you my thoughts on it. I like Chase Claypool. If the Bears had 1 second rounder, me knowing myself, I probably wouldn't have made the deal if this left us without a second rounder moving forward. You give me a second pick in that round, we're talking about something completely different, because it still gives you that ability to move in any direction you want to move in the draft in round 2. So that made it a lot easier for me. And, you bring in a guy of Chase Claypool, his attributes are really exactly what Justin Fields, what this offense needs. I mean, you saw the plays right before half, Cars, last week in Dallas, when they were essentially trying to, if they had a jump ball type physical presence, that's got Chase Claypool written all over it right before halftime. They bring him in, and one thing that can't be undersold, he's only 24 years old. So this is a kid that is right in line with Justin Fields. He's younger than the wide receiver that you drafted this year. So he's
the youngest wide receiver on the team, actually, as of right now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is a big, big deal, and you want to have the ability. You guys have heard me talk about where I tend to look at things from a different perspective. You have to look ahead. I know everybody loves to say, fuck a cap, and none of this shit matters, but you have to have the ability to look ahead. And this is what the pro personnel staff on the free agent side, the college scouts, Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham have looked ahead and said, we're not super happy with what this draft is unfolding for us at the wide receiver position, what is going to be presented to us in free agency. So let's go make this move now, because it gives you that added benefit of these last few games for him to grow with Justin Fields. And I had to kind of laugh when they asked Ryan Poles about, is this a guy that you're going to be looking at to keep here long term? And he kind of played it off, and he's like, yeah, we'll see how this is. Chase Claypool is going to be here long term. He's going to be a guy that's going to be benefiting from that $125 million in cap space. You're going to see 2 guys at the wide receiver position extended this offseason. I'm pretty sure you got to be completely on board with that thought, right, Cars, with Mooney and Claypool?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think before we jump there, I think this is a great point from Lloyd. If you look at what we did in the 5th round last year, that's Dominique Robinson and Braxton Jones, 2 guys who happen to be starting this year. But no, I think you're absolutely right, Shane. And I think the beauty about this move is kind of twofold. I think this puts Darnell Mooney back more in the slot, where I think he's a much better fit right now.
Totally agree.
And so Claypool, which is one of my favorite statistics, Claypool this year has been playing about 80% in the slot this year. The prior years, he was around 20% in the slot. So when you're talking about a guy who's a true outside receiver, he's been forced inside by the Steelers. Mooney, who's probably more of an inside guy, has been pushed outside. I think it's a really great look. And, understanding that they're not quite Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, but look at when you watch the game this week, watch the way that Miami deploys both of those guys. Watch the way that they use them. They're not as fast, but they're fast. They're bigger than both of those guys. So there is some differences there. And so, yeah, I think if he has a solid remaining 9 games in this season, absolutely those guys are going to be looking at an extension to try to get ahead of before they're asking to be 25+ million.
Absolutely. And this brings, I was looking at Vito's comment there, and that's essentially Vito. That's the thing and what they're looking at. And you have to play poker here, Vito, when it comes to these deals. You want to look ahead. And yes, there's a big risk involved with going ahead and signing him to a long-term deal while he's unproven. But there is a huge benefit of it. You take advantage of the large amount of cap space that you have, and you can probably get him for a little bit cheaper. If he goes out and blows up next year, that price goes up a lot higher after you've had a big productive free agency period where you spent a lot of money. And, we got another guy that's going to be coming due for a contract extension here in another couple of years in Justin Fields. And that's what this is all about. You want to try to get all of this bonus money and the guys that you are projecting forward. You want to get a lot of that stuff paid, the bulk of it, before Justin's franchise-altering deal comes to fruition. So Vito's got a great point, Cars, but at the same time, there's a little bit of Riverboat Ron gambler going on here. You have to put your nuts up on the table and say, all right, we invested a 2 in this kid. We believe enough in him. And one of the things, Cars, that I really like, and you kind of alluded to it when you're talking about moving Mooney to the slot, we have nobody like Chase Claypool on this roster. And it's not even remotely close. You can say what you want about N'Keal Harry. He is a bigger wide receiver with a smaller catch radius. He's never had that big catch radius. If you watch Chase Claypool, he's got a little bit of that he's got a little bit of that Cole Kmet fire in him when he's got the ball in his hands, where he's fighting for everything. The Bears don't have those guys.
Well, and think about the touchdown that that Mooney dropped at the goal line, right? Because of that, you're going to go from a 5'11" guy to now a 6'4" guy that runs that. And listen, the guy's not Mike Evans, but if what Chris Canty said on ESPN is true, is that right now he's like number 3 in the NFL in contested catch percentage. He's at about 54%.
Repeat that. Number 3 in the NFL.
And again, this is not my stat. That's coming from Chris Canty. He's got a 54% catch on contested passes, which may not sound like a lot, but again, if you're a glutton for punishment, go watch some of the throws that he's catching from dead-armed Ben Roethlisberger, Mason Rudolph, Pickett, and Trubisky. These aren't really catchable balls. And I'm going to throw up one quick thing. Like, this isn't just a him issue. If you look at these numbers and catch percentages across the board, for Pittsburgh. They're not very good because the quarterback play for this year has been brutal. But you know, the last 2 years haven't been a whole lot better. So what he's done has been pretty solid, and we'll talk through, you know, comparatively what that looks like. But if you're looking at a deal right now, the guys and names you want to think about, like where they've been average salary, you're probably looking at around, you know, an Adam Thielen, around a 15-ish million per year as it stands now. Maybe, you know, if they have a big year, that goes up a little bit. You start talking about the Godwin level of 20 mil plus, like that's a threshold you've got to get. So if you tell me that these two guys both sign, let's just theoretically throw out 5 for 75 million, and you front load the hell out of that thing because you've got all this
as
cap
you should,
space,
as you should,
as you should.
Yeah.
Right now you have set yourself up for future success. You have set yourself up with a young core of really Kmet, Mooney, and Claypool that you're ready to go. And I think N'Keal Harry is another guy that they're going to be very interested to see. He, you know, as I said on the pop-up show, he may not be a true number one, but there are 5 to 8 every year. But him coming in as like a 2 and Mooney as a 2 moves everybody down a slot. It moves Harry to a 3. It moves EQ to a 4. It moves Dante Pettis to 47th.
And that's only good. That's only a good thing for the Bears cars. I mean, that you're improving your overall depth. And listen, if somebody falls in the draft that shouldn't fall, none of these moves preclude the Bears from pulling the trigger on a guy at that position.
But I also think, you know, when you look at the way the draft is going, this looks to be very similar to last year, right? Because I love Dotson, but I thought Dotson was going to be a second round, you know, maybe an early second round, but a second round guy nonetheless. And he goes, what, 17th, 18th overall? You look at Treylon Burks, who we spent a lot of time talking about. He goes early first round. There are really probably 3 guys in this draft that are surefire first rounders. Jackson from Ohio State, Quentin Johnson from TCU, and probably Jordan Addison from USC. Those are your 3 locks. And because it's such a need position, you're going to see more guys probably that should be second rounders moving up like we did this last year. And so, yeah, they could have waited. But now you're talking about probably guys that maybe should have been third round picks that now are going to be the guy that you have to focus in the second round. So I get that, you know, we love second round picks, and we'll show through too. Like I tweeted a lot about the list of second round wide receivers that have been here in the last, not just here, but in the NFL the last 6 years. There is no such thing as a sure thing in that second round. And so we made the joke pre-show, Shane, if you folks have seen Family Guy and he goes to the timeshare and basically he can get a boat or he can get what's in the box. And he's like, we should take what's in the box. It could be a boat, right? Like you can either get the boat straight up or you could take the gamble and hope that you're getting it. And I just feel like, you know, it makes a lot of sense for where we are, especially considering we get 9 games, you know, ahead and help Justin out a lot more.
Totally agree, man. You're getting a nice long look at him having the ability to grow with Justin, and this isn't a 28 or a 29-year-old guy that's kind of set in his ways. This is a guy, Cars, you know, you and I talked about it. This is a guy that's been playing with a 50% Big Ben. Yeah. And then Mason Rudolph, who's been pushed down the depth chart. And then you come back
to Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah. And then you bring in Mitch, who's throwing deep balls to the cheerleaders on the sidelines, because that's where Mitch's deep ball usually goes. And then, you have your Pickett, who's, got a propensity to throw quite a few interceptions. And I think you could see that openly. I started watching a little bit of tape a couple nights ago on Chase, and It's just the aggressiveness, the natural aggressive nature that he plays with. That's where it reminds me of Cole Kmet. Cole gets I'm not comparing, athletes, but Cole gets the ball and he is going to punish the linebacker. He's going to punish the corner and the safety that are all trying to bring him down. You go and you watch Claypool and listen, there's a lot of prima donna to him. And this is the thing that you have to do when you're building a culture is you're not going to have a bunch of choir boys out there. And this is something under Ryan Pace at the Bears, in really for a long, long time, they have, Brandon Marshall came here and produced a lot of these guys that if you want to have the high upside, they're not the I'm going to be quiet and set the ball down and walk back because I've been here before. You're not going to get a lot of that with Chase Claypool. But I will say this team needs some of that fucking dog that Chase Claypool brings, because right now on offense, who is that guy that does that?
You've nailed it.
Justin Fields. I see emotion with him, but a little bit of salt and fucking pepper on this offense, man. Give it a little bit of spice, a little bit of taste. I think is going to go a long way. Can't be too much. That's when you have to have a strong locker room to control these guys. And, I didn't like the bullshit with Chase, worrying about what music was being played at fucking practice in Pittsburgh. And that shit pissed off Mike Tomlin. And to his credit, he called it. Chase needs to worry about his own game. There's a lot there to keep him busy. And don't worry about what music we're playing at practice. And that's true. That shit doesn't matter, Chase. Now you've been traded. They moved off of you in Pittsburgh. Now you're coming back to the Midwest. Just like you said, you've been kicked in the balls. Now it's your time to go out there, because you know what, kid? You go out there and you fucking produce, you're going to get paid in Chicago. That's got a shitload of cap space, that has a young, ascending, big-time quarterback, and who the fuck knows where this goes. So there's a lot on the table for the Chicago Bears, but there's even more on the table for Chase Claypool, because right now, he's on that fucking serving platter. And
what does he do? What does Chase do best? Deep.
Yeah.
What does Justin do best Deep. And love to do? Deep. So Benjamin, to your point, I don't know about you, Shane. I give this a solid B of a trade, because I think it's a total risk reward move. Absolutely. And I think when you look at Pittsburgh, they kind of get sometimes too much credit for what they've done in the past. And you're seeing, like everyone's like, Tomlin is great. He's not been as great when the team hasn't been as good, right? Like we're seeing the same things with LaFleur in Green Bay right now, right? When it's not as easy as it's been, when you don't have a top 5 quarterback, it's amazing how much harder the NFL really is. But you're absolutely right. Like I think the other portion that really fits in well for him, that we started to talk about is, he's got Cole Kmet here. He's got EQ here, right? So he's got some people he's familiar with. But when you also look at like the history and where folks view Tyke Tolbert in the NFL as one of the top, if not the top, wide receiver coaches in the NFL, that I think plays a factor. And I think there's some truth to that. For every issue that we've seen that we have with EQ and maybe with Pettis, these guys have played better here than they have played elsewhere in the NFL so far. And so you've got to put a lot to that. And so, I think he's going to come in. He's going to be surrounded with his guys. And I think having a true alpha at the position at quarterback is just going to make him kind of hush. And if he's getting the ball, he's not going to care as much about what music is playing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that your point of having an alpha, you have an athletic freak back there that's going to buy time. And this is one place where the Bears have struggled for a long, long time. You watch in the NFL, you watch plays break down, and then all of a sudden, yes, we saw it with Dante Pettis in week 1 when he busted off that was it 55 yards or whatever
he was
it was.
Wide open.
But these are the type of plays that Chase Claypool with his, I mean, he had, I think it was maybe Ben Ricketts that posted it earlier. His RAS was a 9.98, and that's out of a 10. So that means that this is like Angelo Joe Marino type at freak athleticism cars. And
it's top tier. It's totally top tier numbers.
But those are the things. You put two of those guys out there making plays when things break down, those 15-yard gains become 65-yard gains and touchdowns on top of it.
And that's, that's the other part that I don't think he gets enough credit for is through his career, Chase has been a fantastic yards after the catch guy. And you mentioned it when you started talking about he's someone that fights through yards. We've all seen some of the highlight clips of I think it was against Buffalo, and it took 4 guys to finally pull him down, and he got an additional 6 or 7 yards. Like all of those things, again, you compare to Mooney. I love Mooney, but he's good at making guys miss, not fighting for extra yards. Neither is Pettis. Neither is EQ. So
is it bad that we're 26, almost 27 minutes into the show, and we've talked about the 4th and 5th string wide receivers, and we haven't even brought up Bayless yet?
I think it's it's
telling, right? Yeah. That's what I mean. It's a disappointment, man.
And in a way, this move helps him out too.
It does,
right? And you look at some of these uses, you see Claypool in the jet sweeps that we've been doing with Bayless, with EQ, with Pettis, right? And he's a true, he basically averages about, for his career, 1 carry a game, right? So he's good for that sort of thing. I do think Bayless now gets more time to develop. He's not going to get pushed like he is. I think he's going to be inactive.
By the time his 30th birthday rolls around, he'll be ready to go, Karst.
Just like Kevin White, right? Every time he makes a catch now, it's like the Bears left him too early, forgetting that was like a decade ago.
And that's it's going to be interesting. And listen, I've said this, Cars, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, and I know people laugh at it, people roll their eyes at it. If I'm Getsy, I get the fucking ball, and my first goddamn play, if I'm the Chicago Bears, I'm fucking coming off action and I'm going deep to Chase Claypool, and I'm saying, fuck everybody. You know what? We went out and got this kid. One of 2 things, or I guess 3 things could happen. Philly did that when they made that trade for T.O. Yes, it was only preseason. First play of the game, I think it might have been the Hall of Fame game. Andy Reid came out, and it was a fucking go ball. It was like 68 yards to T.O. down the side, and it ignited the whole team. This is the type of thing that I wish that the Chicago Bears would do. Just come out, throw caution to the wind. You know what? We're going to take a huge fucking chance here. And I don't give a shit if it's Miami and you're outmanned and they have a lot deeper roster than we do. Those things fucking matter. If you incite the fan base, you incite the young prospects on this team with your big-time quarterback, one fucking play can start a fucking fire, man. You don't know where it's going. I would come out, and that would be my first play. I've said it a long time. They never do it. Maybe they'll listen to me this week.
Well, I think Getsy has shown you that he would, right? And Miami is a great team to do that against. I understand that they've added Chubb, but they have not been very good at getting to the quarterback. They're the 6th worst pass defense in the NFL. They aren't really forcing a ton of turnovers, right? They've got 4 interceptions on the year, but it's kind of not much of anything.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely. This is a team, especially with the way that they play offense, right? The way that they're trying to score quick and they keep getting moosh. Like this could very well look a lot like that Dallas game where it's like 45-38, right? Like this could be all of that. And I think you're going to see maybe he's probably going to play 20-25-ish plays overall. But I think you're going to see multiple shots of him going deep.
Got to.
And it's not going to just be a one-time thing.
It's the best part of his game and the best part of the quarterback's game, like you talked about, Carson.
Yep.
I know you have some stats, so I mean, if you want to throw those up there, let's get right into it.
So this is the first one I want to talk to real briefly is, when everybody's complaining about really, the second round pick, you want to look at what I'm kind of showing up here from 2017 into the draft on. These names have been the best wide receivers taken in the second round. And you kind of look through what this means. His numbers are extremely similar. And I guess the way I would look at it too is he's really the only one who's had a worse quarterback situation, arguably, has been Cortland Sutton, taking it from Drew Lock and whoever else out there. So he's really performed at a level, and he is the second youngest one in this list. So when everybody sits down and complains and says, I can't believe you gave up a second rounder, we could have drafted someone just as good, it really isn't. And understanding, again, the draft is the ultimate pick your poison type of thing. You're more likely to miss on a second rounder than you are at certain positions. A second rounder at wide receiver, you're going to miss more often in the second round than you are in the first. So this whole idea is just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, and it's, who was the guy that was killing the trade today? Ryan shared it with us. Bill Barnwell.
Bill. Yeah, of course.
Mr. Comb Over himself. If you ever want to get blocked by Bill on Twitter, just talk about his comb over. It's an instant block. When Twitter took my original account away, I got back, and I haven't really talked to him, but I may have to fire him off something after the show so I can get blocked again. But him killing the trade and saying, why would you – oh, geez, Houston just dropped the fucking interception. But why would you remove yourself from taking a wide receiver in the second round? I'm like, because they just fucking told you that they think Chase Claypool is better than any option for them there.
Yeah.
They're not backing themselves into a corner. They're trying to go into the draft where they can take BPA, and they're not going to vary from that, Cars. We've told everybody that, everybody's saying, oh, it's wide the kid from Smith in Jigba from Ohio State and all that. Guys, he's not going to Chicago if they're drafting in the top 10. They're not. It's just get over that part of it. It's not happening. And they're not going to pass BPA to take a lesser offensive lineman or to take a lesser wide receiver because you feel like it's a need. They're not going to do it.
No, and listen, it doesn't necessarily it changes the whole game, because now what's happened is it's better for where they're going to be, because the board, the way it will line up versus positional value and need, all of a sudden line up a heck of a lot better. I'm going to pick on the Tennessee Titans right now. You go out and trade A.J. Brown, create this massive void at wide receiver.
At 24 years old, by the way.
Yeah.
He's 24. He looks like he's 50. Motherfucker looks like he's 50, but 24 years. I just don't get it, man.
And
you make a hole and you throw a pebble back in that fucking hole to fill it back in. It makes no sense.
And what has he done this year? A whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
You kind of look back. Drake London has played decent. Garrett Wilson has played defense. Olave probably has looked overall the best, but it's hard to blame Garrett Wilson for playing with Zach Wilson, who has one of my favorite numbers I've ever. I shared this earlier, and this is totally tangential, but any of Zach Wilson has waited over 3.5 seconds 41 times to throw the ball, and he's only completed 4 of those. So if you're Garrett Wilson, you're pissed off. But you look at what Tennessee did. They created a hole, which then forced a positional need to move above everything, and that hasn't been a good pick. You're talking about a guy who's got 10 catches and 129 yards on the season for a team that really has playoff aspirations and probably coming into this season, they thought, hey, maybe we've got a chance at a Super Bowl run. But that's not winning football. That causes you so many issues. So if the Bears are sitting there at 10, now they have the flexibility of if a center is there, if a guard is there, if a tackle is there, if a interior 3 technique is there. Not if an off the ball linebacker is there, though, according to every press conference we've watched. So it's just a great thing overall. It just gives you so much more flexibility.
Yeah, and this, I was just looking at this. I know we're not big on just stats here, but I find it funny. You listen to Pittsburgh fans, Pittsburgh pundits that are killing the Bears and saying that this was higher, that they fleeced the Bears. And if you listen to Pittsburgh fans or meathead Chicago Bears fans that are treating George Pickens like he's the next Randy Moss, that they love everything that he's done in his rookie season. So he's got 26 receptions for 338 yards and 1 touchdown. So 26 for 338. Now, if you ask them about Chase Claypool, he fucking sucks. He's washed up. He's done nothing. And let me give you his numbers this season. He's got 26 catches also.
32.
For 300. Or is it 32?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. I was looking at it. 32 catches for 311 yards and 1 touchdown. So they're damn near identical numbers, and one guy sucks and is Randy Moss, or is not Randy Moss, and the other guy is just going to be taking the league by storm. So there's a lot of meathead involved, a lot of homerism there when you're talking about Pittsburgh, but sometimes the law of Occam's razor takes over, cars, and when you have shitty play at quarterback, it makes everybody look bad. And I think that that's what you're seeing in Pittsburgh first and foremost.
I mean, again, stats are for losers, right? But when you look at what Pittsburgh has done, they are last in the league at yards per attempt at 6. If you remember the Matt Nagy offense of nothing but curls and outs.
Curls.
That's what they're running. If you want to sit down and compare, right, the Bears are running at 7.5 yards per attempt.
Yep.
If you want to take it even further, the Bears have 94 receptions on the year, and 22 of those are over 20 yards. I think it's something like 19 over 20 and 3 over 40. The Steelers have 192 receptions, and they have 22 plays over 20 yards, and only one of those being over 40.
Yeah.
So that offense, if you go back and watch, it is everything we hated about Matt Nagy's offense. Matt Canada, or whatever his first name is as hated as Nagy is, and you could see it every play call that's out there.
Yeah, and question here, follow 84, Shane without the Y. I don't like the way you spell it, but I'll still answer your question. Would you agree that if Velus worked out, that the Bears never make this trade? I think that it was going to be a need no matter what. I mean, if Velus Jones, listen, nobody's been harder on Velus Jones. I never thought that Velus Jones was going to come in here and make an huge impact in the receiving game and put up these huge numbers. I've been very open and honest about my disdain for the pick on draft night. If it happened, I wouldn't have made the pick at 71. Just didn't have him there. Didn't like the pick then. Don't like the pick now. But even if he had went out and put up a couple of 100 yards, cars, I don't think that was because the Bears don't have a wide receiver like Chase Claypool. That's not who Velus is. Velus is a bigger kid, but he's not the physical presence that Chase Claypool is. And if you can bring the kid in with the benefit of, having that extra 2, Velus Jones wouldn't have prevented me from making another move at wide receiver, because you need more playmakers for your quarterback.
As everybody knows, I'm a closet Cincinnati Bengals fan, right? But when you look at that team, I think you're exactly right? Jamar Chase, Higgins, Tyler Boyd,
Yep.
right? I mean, if you sit down and you've got 3 guys that you can throw the ball to that are averaging over 14, 15 yards of reception, you're going to do that every time. If you look at what used to make the LA Rams really good, it was Kupp, it was Robert Woods, and it was usually some sort of rotating third name that was out there. So yeah, no, this doesn't stop you from making this move whatsoever, because if Velus Jones had worked out, you're still trotting out Dante Pettis or someone else, out there. So absolutely, the best thing you can do for young quarterbacks is have a good tight end. Look at what Uzama did for Burrow his first couple of years, and then you have as many wideouts as you can. So I think no, it doesn't preclude you from anything. And
no, and listen, I know I take a lot of grief from bringing up this team that's playing on Thursday Night Football right now, but if you want the blueprint, they're essentially providing you with the blueprint in Philadelphia. They went out the year that the Bears drafted Justin Fields. Who did they draft? They drafted the Heisman Trophy winner from Alabama. They brought him in the top 10 at wide receiver. And what did they do last year? They went out and traded another one to the guy that you just talked about, in A.J. Brown. That didn't prevent them from making yet another move. That's why I'm telling you right now, if Velus works out for the rest of the season, Chase Claypool blows up, and a fucking animal falls into your lap in the draft, you take him. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Even more than that, the other team that I want to reference is the team that we're playing today. There are teams out there that have some big cap issues. You look at Tampa Bay, you look at New Orleans, although I think Michael Thomas is done overall. Yeah, but you look at these teams who are struggling in the cap, and now all of a sudden the Bears could come in, and I'll use a Godwin. I know Shane or Phil's a big fan of that guy, and he's not having necessarily the blowout year, but hey, Tampa, if you want to get $20 million closer to being under the cap, we'll take Godwin in his full salary and slot him in. Yes, he's not a cheetah, but there are other guys now that you can kind of slot in and take, and kind of you get these deals cheap because these teams are cap pressure. Buffalo is going to have issues. The Chargers are going to have issues. The Packers, I know we won't make a deal, but they're going to have cap issues. So you can now start to take advantage of those players and really get a good player cheap overall.
And I think you can switch it to another player in Tampa that may surprise a lot of people.
Mike Evans.
Evans, because they may say, hey, if we're going to be paying, we're going to go with the younger guy. To see where that is. And that you're
absolutely right.
Think about the sunshine and rainbows. I mean, CHGO will be doing crazy things to each other on that fucking couch they sit on all day over there.
No wonder they're getting so big.
Yeah.
Did I say that out loud?
But you add a guy like Mike Evans with Chase Claypool, with Darnell Mooney, and then all of a sudden you're cooking with gas there. And listen, that is not out of the realm of possibility. That is, he's older, obviously, than AJ Brown, but that's the move. That's how you get in to the dance. You make a move like that, assuming all of the financial responsibility to relieve the other team from it, and you flip them a pick to get them out of the financial mess that they're in. That is why all this added cap space, and everybody says, oh, free agency sucks. Well, it's not going to suck if a Mike Evans is available. It's not going to suck if another big time wideout becomes available and they need somebody that's got a shitload of cap space that has a need like Chicago does.
It's really, again, it's the beauty of the position we're in, and it's why you take all of these hits now, because you're going to get to a point in the offseason where you can steal a guy from another team. We've talked a lot about, offensive linemen. Are there going to be teams that are going to have to go, There's going to be a lot of cuts this year, I feel like, because teams have overpaid a lot of people. So yeah, I think Benjamin kind of sums it up right. The roster as it is now is just the roster for now. And so don't get comfortable. I like EQ. I would love if he came back as a fourth, but you know what? You go out and get a Mike Evans. He's not coming. He's not going to be here, right? And so none of this is done. And the people who start on Sunday may not even be on the team next year either, even if they're young or even if they're under contract, right? Because there's a lot of folks that they're going to have to sit down and figure out who can play. And, like we're going to start to see some Sanborn. We're going to start to see probably some Weatherford. We're going to, just like we saw more Dominique Robinson and Gibson. And it's part of why the defense struggled. But you know what? We're ascending and we're going to figure out who's going to be here. And I think Claypool, again, because of his impact in the run game, because of his impact in the pass game, he's going to help us get more true evaluations on Justin, on the run game, and some of those other key people.
Absolutely. And you're getting him in advance. And I can't undersell the point that this isn't Muhsin Muhammad coming to Chicago to provide a veteran influence, a guy that's already 30 or 31 years old, or even 29 years old. This is a guy that is going to be right in your wheelhouse, that's going to sit there and grow. If it works out with Chase Claypool, him and Mooney are here for the next 5 years with Justin. You know what I mean? That's the way that you look at it, and you have consistency. And this is what's killed Chicago. They have not had that. There's so much turnover.
But
year
why?
After year. Yeah, bad drafting, and then you're filling it in free agency with even worse deals. Free agent. Everybody loves free agency. I'm just as guilty. I get it. But you're paying C and B level talent. You're paying them premium A+ prices.
Christian Kirk is the greatest example of that.
Man.
And so you're absolutely right. You can get good players and you overpay. And so we've always laughed. Who, for most of our early parts of the 2000s, what team won pretty much every offseason? The Redskins. Every year. They're like, oh, they got Hainsworth. Oh, they've done this. Oh, they've done this.
For all the haters in the YouTube comments, by the way, I'm the one that said Washington. Cars said Redskins.
In that point in time, they were the Redskins, so that's my defense.
So leave me the fuck alone. I get it.
But, you just don't do that. And, again, you look at New England. They've always done well through the draft. They've done terrible in free agency outside of a couple. So, this is the reason we've been unable to do this is we've struck out on young, and so we've overpaid for old. Now we're going to keep taking chances and swings at the bat at young players. And look, I know if I take Velus Jones out of this draft, right? And I know because we all love to shit on that, right? But we picked up a starter at safety, a starter at corner, a starter at left tackle, now a starter at defensive end. And, you've picked up an all-world punter that Shane just won't stop talking about, Trenton Gill.
I named him Punt God. Cherie was on that show with us.
But you're talking about a team that went through and added 4 or 5 starters in one draft. Now you're going to give them more picks. You're going to give them more flexibility. If they're sitting at top 10 and a quarterback falls, they're going to be able to get more picks
for sale.
And so it really, I think a lot of people have said it puts a lot of pressure on Ryan Poles, and it absolutely should, because now he's got to make the moves. But if I look at that and you're telling me out of my first 5 picks, I got 4 starters, that's a home run draft. And this isn't like the Tariq Cohen, Eddie Jackson kind of home run. This is a true home run. I've been really happy with Braxton Jones the last 2 weeks. I think he's really an ascending guy, and he's starting to figure it out. I think Dominique Robinson is really flashed.
Yeah.
So let's give them a chance. Next year should look a lot better. But again, what have we said all season, Shane? We get to about week 10, we'll know where we are. We look so much better.
Yeah, totally agree, Cars. It's always been. Listen, I understand we all want to win. We all want to go to the playoffs. We want to contend for the Super Bowl. But remove that. If you're not in that position, that's the ultimate goal, each and every year. We understand that. But if that is off the table, which obviously very likely it is, unless, we catch lightning in a bottle here. You want that momentum. You want this roster. You want that arrow pointed in the direction that it's pointed right now. Yes, we're gonna take a step back, and don't forget, guys. I know it's funny. I think it was the kid from CHGO, Nick Moriano, sent out a tweet saying, "Man, if you thought the Bears defense was bad on Sunday versus Dallas, just wait and see what it looks like without Roquan Smith." I'm like,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, Nick, thank you. Genius. I mean, we just had Roquan and gave up 42 points on defense and 200 rushing yards. And I mean, it's lazy analysis. It's jumping on, it's piling on. And what do they say, Cars? Every single fucking training camp, every offseason program, it's defense gels quicker than the offense does. It takes this offense a little bit longer to get going. That they know that. Roquan, listen, Cars, and I think we have to talk about this. Obviously,
let's do it
with Roquan. Matt Eberflus went up there and pulled his fucking pants down and put his Manscaped balls on the fucking table and essentially told Roquan and his agent, "Here you go.
What does he pay for, Shane? What do they pay out of that position? Ball skills.
Ball skills. Yeah.
Ball skills.
Take the ball away." And then the ultimate mic drop, Cars, was when Brad Biggs thought he was going to have him over a barrel with his question. And he's like, "Well, would you have considered, were you pounding the table for Roquan at number 5 over the guard from Notre Dame?" And, he was trying to paint Flus into a corner by, being dismissive of Roquan, and Flus didn't give a fuck. Yeah. He's like, "No, Ballard wasn't in a position to draft an off-the-ball linebacker at number 5 overall." And he said it with a, "Are you fucking crazy?"
face. Yeah.
So that tells you. And what have we told you guys here? Cars and I specifically. You're not building your team or giving a generational type contract. Yes, that will look small in a couple of years. I understand that. You're not giving $100 million to an off-the-ball linebacker with a roster that's got so many holes on it. It's bad business.
And I don't want to take away, because an interception is an interception. But when you look at both of them this year, those come from tip balls up front. And if you actually look across the 7, I think it's something like 4 or 5 of his interceptions come from tips. Listen, I'm not trying to take away from those things, but when he says ball skills, what he means is you are the reason the ball is coming out. You cannot, as a weak side linebacker that wants to be paid $20+ million a year or whatever it is, tell me that one forced fumble in 69 games is getting it done.
No.
I understand that you are a tackle machine. You have done it each and every year, right? We're talking about 600 tackle attempts in 4 years, 5 years, and you have one fumble. That is unheard of. And so you compare that to a Shaquille Leonard who has something like 9 forced fumbles in a lot less games and a lot less tackle attempts. That means a lot. Tackles are both a very important stat, but it's also one of the most overrated stats, because a team can assign a tackle at will, and it's not double checked. It's not like they're reviewing on the sack numbers or anything else. So it's important, but it's also it's basically always like I caught a fish and it was this big and it's actually a minnow, but along those lines. So you've got to. I loved that because when they kept being forced to answer the question, why didn't you develop? Why don't you keep a guy that you can develop and have developed and has grown up in your season? And they said we couldn't come to a common ground. That's why. That's why the 2 interceptions. What is Roquan doing after both interceptions? Throwing up money.
Right.
Guess what?
Yeah.
It wasn't enough.
Why do you like primetime games? Because that's what he's saying. Yeah, everybody sees me. I'm going to go out there. I'm the best. I'm the best linebacker in the NFL. Well, you're not. And the thing about it is, Cars. What are the chances that he's a Baltimore Raven in 2023? I don't
Very
think
low.
It's likely. Yeah.
No, because listen, they were also in the position to play the comp pick game.
Yeah.
So
they will. They play it better than anybody in the league.
But this is a team that everyone wants to give kudos to. Does anyone remember the contract that Lamar Jackson signed this offseason?
Yeah.
They didn't.
Right.
And to make matters worse for them, and I guess that's the other part of that news, is Rashad Bateman is now done for the year. So now all of a sudden this team that thought they can compete may not be able to. Roquan is probably not staying in Baltimore. He's going to, he can go talk to his buddy or former Baltimore Ravens CJ Mosley and see how well it is to go chase money on the other side.
I could see him ending up someplace like Atlanta, going back down to Georgia. I'm not even sure of what their cap is, but I don't think he's going to be back in Baltimore. I think that was their play. Yeah, we'll give up the 2 and the 5, and then we're going to regain a 3 once he goes. That's been Baltimore's MO forever.
And so, because everyone's like, that's what they're going to do with Patrick Queen. They're going to do that with Roquan too. Yeah. And that's, when you look around, there's not going to be a lot of teams, I think, that have a ton of space. You can obviously take the Chicago Bears off as one of their potential places. But I think if you look at, Atlanta is second most in the NFL in cap space next year. Then it's New England. He could end up in New York. I could see him ending up at Houston and with the Texans if Lovie Smith is still the head coach.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah,
hold on. I want to do one thing. Just give me 1 second. Retro. No one cares. Just stop. Okay, yeah. We get it. But he's one of the few veterans on the team. We've seen it multiple times. Let's be Elsa. Let's let it go. It's not that important.
Yeah, it's really not. We just went through a season where we had,
rotated.
Bruce Irvin was a captain for a game, and I understand that, Justin Fields, yes, Eddie Jackson, I get with the way that he's coming up, but like you said, I think the veteran influence, and listen, Flus is around these players each and every day. If he's having an impact in the classroom, and again, don't bring stats to the board, especially for an interior defensive lineman. Those guys can dictate games without putting up stats. And Justin Jones, has he been downright dominant? No, I'm not upset whatsoever. If you're telling me that he was the pivot from Ogunjobi, and that's the guy that then I'm pretty impressed with what he's brought here. Did I ever think that he was going to be gangbusters? No, but to get upset and think that this should be like front page news about him being named captain, no, it's just because he's a veteran. He's been around. He's been on a couple of teams, and the guys on the team respect him. That's all it is.
And so Eddie Jackson was a very well-deserved one, but really, when you look at it, your other options were probably either Angelo Blackson, maybe Nick Morrow, maybe.
Yeah, but then it's no different.
No,
really, then, because you're looking. It's going to be a defensive guy. They said he was a defensive captain, so you're limited about where he can go. So I think it's you're worrying about the wrong things, I think.
I mean, being a captain isn't necessarily performance based, right?
Right.
It is a steadying influence. It is a good locker room person. It is someone who is a leader. You don't look at stats for that sort of thing. I get it. I know that it doesn't look, but I mean, if you're telling me he's got 2 sacks, I think that's for a team that has something like 9 on the season and 3 of them are from Brisker. He and Trevis Gibson are the 2 down linemen that have more than 1. So yeah, I think that makes a whole lot of sense right now. And so, listen, the other portion I think we're underselling is these were voted on by the players themselves. It is the players that voted Roquan the first time, and so they went by the pecking order that they had left, and that meant that Eddie Jackson was next and Justin Jones was after that. So, whatever you want to be upset about, like, fine, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but this whole, I didn't really know what was listening to Ryan Poles after the trade. It seems like he's known all season that this was inevitable with Roquan, that he was going to be. I mean, he told him, he's like, yeah, we gave our best
before the season.
Yeah, we put our best out there. And I said, that's what drives me nuts with the Chicago media is he came out and he told you that we gave our best offer before the season started. And then Potash comes and asks the same goddamn question, but in a different way. And then the next guy, Leisure, comes in and asks the same question, but in a different way. And he's like, I told you there was no common ground.
It's ridiculous that they had to do that. What they basically admitted was multiple times, they've come back to the drawing board, and Roquan was basically,
right.
And I'm going to make up a number. We don't know the number, but I'm just going to say, F you, I want 20. Like, well, we'll give you 17. Like, it's a negotiation. He's like, no, 20. Okay, we'll give you 17.5. No, 20, right? Like, yeah. When they couldn't come to that middle ground, and when you layer that on with they haven't negotiated in good faith, which they had done everything to protect him at that point.
Absolutely.
The franchise has had his back. And again, I don't think we need to know what happens, but when he missed those games for personal reasons and he fell off the face of the earth, it's very unusual that nothing has come out about what that was, because somebody always finds out and blabs. They have done everything to kind of protect him from himself. And so, yeah, everybody, there's 2 parties at fault always. But I'm going by the 90-10 rule, and that it's 10% Bears and 90% Roquan.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw some quotes on him today saying that he was
shocked,
not expecting this at all and totally stunned. And I'm like, that just shows how fucking clueless you are. If you're, first off, this is the NFL, and nothing that you have done in the NFL to this point screams to me that you're an untradeable asset, that you're immovable. You know what I mean? It's just, that's, not negotiating in good faith. You know what that means? It means Roquan was told some things that Roquan didn't like hearing that were the truth.
Yep.
So, he didn't like to hear the negatives. You know what, bud? That's why you hire a fucking agent, so you don't have to hear those. He's the mediator. He's the middle guy. He's going to hear all the bad shit and not relay it to you and say, hey, this is where they are here. And, man, you have one fumble in how many games? In what was it?
69
games. Those things, these guys, I get it. They're high-performance athletes, and you want them, like Ryan Poles. I think Ryan Poles literally said that yesterday. You want your guys to think that they're the best at their position in the NFL. You want that. It's motivating. It gets these guys prepared. But when it comes to negotiations, people say, well, he's an all-pro. He's an all-pro. wait a minute.
No, he's not.
He's a second team All-Pro. And when it comes to negotiations, that's a big fucking difference. That shit matters when you're negotiating these big time, franchise altering, league wide setting deals like Roquan wanted to be. And like I said, I'll be pretty surprised if he works out a deal in Baltimore, and you're going to see him on team number 3 already next year at this time.
And when you look at it, just again, the Ravens have 40 guys under contract next year.
Yep.
They do not have Lamar Jackson, and they're 39 million under the cap. Under. So he's going to get 30. That's going to leave 9 for him and the other 16 guys that that they're going to have to sign contracts. So they're going to have to be renegotiated.
And how many draft picks do they have? You have to incorporate
I think that factors in. I think they've got a bunch of
they always do. They do every year. They usually get 4 comp picks every year. That all factors into it.
It's pretty crazy, and we've made a lot of big steps about, the Bears are 85 in dead cap this year. They're just shy of 20 next, and that number continues to decline. These teams are in a world of hurt, and the Bears are set right now. This is the perfect time for them to get cheap, to get young, right, and start to build this as a grassroots. And if we keep hammering on it, right, Claypool 24, Mooney 25, Fields 23, Brisker, Gordon, all these guys that are young, up and coming guys. Now they're building this roster youthfully from the draft and really cheap trades overall, as opposed to overpaying these old free agents.
I think something that people haven't talked about either, and I know I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because I know we're essentially talking about nothing but the off season here, but look at what Ryan Poles did with a limited set of draft picks this year. We came away with 11 total. What's he going to do with a first, with a second, with a third? You know what I mean? He didn't have the first rounder to play with last year. It's you have to think about that. He can move, and you could come away with another 11 draft picks this year very easily. You may come away with another one in 2024 in your deals. And these are the type of things. It's why it's so critical, Cars. You have listen, the $125 million is not going to be spent this offseason. Fans need to realize that. They have no intention of doing that. If there's moves out there to be made that they feel are beneficial to the Bears, they're going to make them. They're going to try to get the guys that they look at and project 2 years, 3 years, maybe even 4 years down the road. 4 years is probably pushing it in the NFL, but they want them to be free of practically all of their guaranteed dollars when it's time for Justin Fields. Because when he comes up, Cars, you're talking at that point $45 and $50 million per year.
And I think the other way you're absolutely right. The other way to look at that is other teams, when a quarterback has come off that rookie deal, look at what Kansas City is had to do to juggle some of those things. They have to make these moves. So this is a total Kool-Aid drinking statement, right? But part of the advantage of where the Bears are right now as an ascending team trying to get younger is because we're not necessarily trying to maximize Justin's rookie contract like Kansas City has done, like Philly is doing. What we can do is build through the draft so that when it hits, we've got young players up and coming, right? So when you look at that and what that means, the other advantage to this is you look at these teams that are under, tight against the cap. They're tight here, they're tight there. Hey, you know what? We'll take your earlier second rounder for our later second rounder and save you some money, and maybe we'll throw in an additional, fourth or fifth rounder, right? kind of like what the Bears have been doing to pick up, basically buy draft picks or buy players this year by taking on contracts, they can continue to do to next year.
Yep.
And so, yeah, quarterback falls, wide receiver falls. Absolutely, they're gonna be there and have, or lineman falls or whoever. They're either in a position where they could draft that guy or be exactly do exactly what Miami did in that Trey Lance deal, right?
Yep.
Like take a whole boatload of picks, find someone that was as desperate as we were to go get Justin, and then make all this happen.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bears were extremely lucky that they made the move from 20 to 11
Yep.
for Fields, and that we didn't have to move from 20 to 2, because then you're talking about such a massive hole, a deficit
What Miami
of draft
got.
picks. Yeah, exactly. Somebody had in their Zane, do you see polls trading up? I mean, it depends. Listen, I don't see any massive move up. You're not going to be moving up for
Jalen Carter would be the exception.
Yeah, and even then, Cars, I don't think that he would be. I don't see him trading multiple future assets in terms of high-end premium picks to move up for defensive tackle. I don't see him in that. I mean, if you're making a big move up into the top 3, say, to me, you're not going up there for a defensive tackle as good as he is. I just don't
you're
think
absolutely right.
Yeah, that's quarterback territory. I just don't think that he's there. But you have the name right, man. It's Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. I will be stunned if they fall down to, if the Bears are drafting 9th. I don't expect either of those guys to sniff. I know crazy thing happens. Maybe they get maybe they get a gas mask and it breaks on draft night. We can both hope and pray for that.
It's really the quarterback from Kentucky. If he moves up into top 10, because I think we all agree that probably Stroud and Young are going top 5. But it does take if what is his name, Levi or Levis, from Kentucky? Yeah, Levis from Kentucky. If he moves up, absolutely. And we've seen that sort of thing happen. Like Warren Sapp and Tommy Harris, 2 of my favorite 3 techniques ever, all fell because of different reasons and people over promoting other positions. So
weed and then knee injuries.
Weed is a good one. And so you're going to look at this, but like there are a lot of mocks right now that are showing Jalen Carter around the 10th pick because of the offensive line need and everything else.
Well, if you're drafting 9th and he's on the board, it's over.
It's done.
You write it down. Matt Eberflus is going to rip his shirt off and run around Hallis Hall, and it's going to be bonkers. They would not pass him. I don't care who else is there. 3 tech drives this defense. That was the number 1 move out the gate for these guys. Was with Ogunjobi. So it's going to be crazy to see how this unfolds, but to move this off of the offseason, because still we're in week 9, Cars, and I think it's
I do have one more thing we should probably go back to talking about Chase Claypool, and this is courtesy of the Chicago Football Connection, but I loved seeing this. So
it was great.
The top left that you're looking at, that is the way that Chase Claypool has been used this year with Pittsburgh. So again, in the slot, you're seeing heavy duty. Everything in the target is short throws. They have used him as a big body guy to try to help get Pickett and Mitch into a rhythm. Now look at the one to the bottom right. This is where he was used in his rookie year. So what you're seeing is you're talking about 52+% of his plays his rookie year were deeper target throws, right? So you're talking about stretching the field, and it makes a lot of sense that 8 of his touchdowns came from that type of use. You know,
Yeah.
he's not. He's not one of these guys that is just a big body that is slow like N'Keal Harry. This is a guy who is a vertical threat who they basically have put training wheels on.
Yeah.
And I understanding everything that folks have said, but this has been a criminal misuse of this guy. And so when he comes here, you're going to see these numbers flip all over again. And yes, I understand the catch percentage is always different, but the other thing you got to factor into these deep balls, this is dead-armed Ben Roethlisberger, his rookie year, who's, yards per attempt and average year attempt of air or yards through the air was at his career low at that point in time. And this season, that is Mitch Trubisky, who we all know can't throw an accurate ball down the field, and Pickett, who is really struggling with the same thing. So Justin is good deep. Chase is preferred deep. So when you look at those usage numbers, that's big. And I think, Shane, the other thing we talked about briefly on the pop-up show is that helps your offensive line too. Your defensive, defense is going to take a lot more chances when they don't have to be afraid of your wide receivers and what's happening. Now you've got two that you've got to be concerned with, and that's going to sometimes force a defensive coordinator to take a little bit of the foot off the gas pedal, because now if they mess up, they've shown that they will beat you deep, and they have done that with Pettis, and they have done that with EQ. That's an instant upgrade to Chase Claypool. This makes the whole defense a lot more threatening. The whole offense the more threatening. And I would not be shocked if we saw a 35-plus attempt pass game for Justin Fields as a way to celebrate this week.
What do they have to lose, Cars? I mean,
nothing.
They don't, and you have to look at it like they're looking at Chase Claypool to get him incorporated, to get him ready for 2023 in this offense. And these reps now are exactly what he needs with Justin. Who is the happiest guy on this offense other than Justin Fields, Cars, with this acquisition?
Oh, Mooney, 100%.
100%. Yeah. Think about Darnell Mooney probably fell off his couch when he saw, and that one thing I did get a chance to just go watch a couple of minutes. I missed the Keeping It 100 show last night, but one thing that was very interesting, I thought, that Phil said about his trip to Dallas and being down on the field with him and Larson was Justin Fields was down on the field, and then Ryan Poles came down on the field and was talking, and they were like, who's that guy that Ryan Poles is talking to? And he was there's like, oh, that's Justin's agent. And at the time, nobody's thinking anything, but where is that important now? Ivan brought it up last night, was that Justin Fields' agent is also whose agent? Chase Claypool's. Those are the ways that these things work. These trades don't just happen last minute. Sometimes they come together real quickly, but they very well could have been talking about that down on the field at that very moment. And then Justin went over and was talking to his agent. And I said, that's what's interesting. You bring Claypool back to the Midwest, back home. He's going to be living with Cole Kmet until he gets that situation figured out. He's very close with Cole, good friends with EQ and those guys, but, excited about Justin and knows Justin that it's not just a brotherhood with who you're teammates with in college. When you're a pro, it's a brotherhood with who you share an agency with.
Think about it. He was joking he was joking in his press conference, right? Sam Mustipher already hooked him up with a real estate agent, right? Yep. So they've been able to make this feel like home for him right away.
Yeah. Bulldozed realty.
Yeah.
That's what Sam uses.
I did want to talk through this because I think it is important. I think the biggest issue is these wide receivers aren't really trusted. I think N'Keal Harry is going to be a little different because he's just now getting healthy. And we saw that in that touchdown, the way that he was used.
Yep.
But I think the biggest reason that these guys aren't getting separation is that they've just been elevated to a position that they really weren't cut out for. EQ has been a 2, and he's not a 2.
Right.
Pettis has been a 3, and he's not a 3. And so what this means is that you've seen
Mooney's been a 1, and he's not a, and people get offended by that, and it's not a.
They're 5 to 8
right
ones every year. There is
absolutely.
Cooper Kupp wasn't a 1 when he first came in, and he worked his way there. So Mooney is seeing 2 different guys kind of bracketing him at all different points, and the other pieces that happen just can't make it work. And so, yeah, Chase Claypool comes in all of a sudden. Everybody gets knocked down one more peg, someplace where they really belong. They now sit in a place where they belong. And I think John Gray has a great point here. This helps Kmet too. This is a guy, and I keep going back to N'Keal Harry. These are 2 guys that are great in the middle of the field, great down the seams. They provide you mismatch opportunities. And so now all of a sudden, everybody's getting help from the guy next to them. Yeah. And so now there are more targets. And, so it looks, the offense, if we look again, the last 2 weeks, the Bears have averaged basically 370 or 380 yards a game, scoring 30 points. They've been really effective on third down, which has been really unusual. I think they're 17 for their last 35 on third down. Now you add another guy in. This is going to help make you better on first down, which is going to get you into more third and manageable positions. And this gets in the red zone where we've had the biggest issues.
Yep.
You now have another guy who I think it's something like 8 of his 11 or 12 touchdowns have been kind of inside the red zone type plays.
Yeah,
so
and you
gives you another big body.
Big body, absolutely, Cars, and that's the thing. You almost want to switch to being a basketball team down there so you can post some guys up. And now you're talking about, you saw Kmet finally get a ball in the fucking red zone down, in the end zone, come down with it. But now you talk about N'Keal Harry, you talk about Chase Claypool. You want to play the numbers, and when you have big athletic people down there with a big time quarterback that has the threat of the run at any moment.
Oh yeah.
That is huge for any type of an offense.
Think about that in those play action or in the RPO games. What we've seen Justin be able to do. Absolutely.
This is as long as he reads it right, not like on that fucking 2-point conversion.
Yeah. Jesus. But I mean, you're absolutely right. There are now stress points at running back, at quarterback, at 2 of the wide receiver positions, and at tight end. If we go look at the game in Miami, there's not a lot of guys that can match up very well with these folks. Xavier Howard, I'm super interested in, just because with all the off-field stuff that's going on right now, where is he going to be mentally? But when you kind of look, like they don't match up very well against us skill position wise. When you're looking at, in the backfield, Cross and Rowe, Holland, those aren't big names back there. Yes, I'm a little worried about Jalen Phillips coming off the edge, but their linebacker core is very average. We now have an extra guy that presents a matchup problem for you. So now they can't shade Mooney with 2 guys.
Yep.
They can't shade in the red zone Cole Kmet with 2 guys, because now you're going to have 2 other guys. And one of the beautiful parts of that N'Keal Harry touchdown last week is that's going to be in everybody's mind. So now this whole idea that I could just bracket a guy or bracket this or kind of take one guy away, there are now 2 other guys to step up and fill that hole. And oh, by the way, number 1 could keep it and score from anywhere on the field.
Yeah, so. And it's so great to see, some of these next gen stats, and the fastest player on the field in all of the NFL was who? Our quarterback. What was it? 21.23 miles per hour on that one play. But that speaks just to the, they talked to Coach Flus about watching Justin on the sidelines and what his speed looks like, when he's like, it's blinding. And I don't know if anybody has ever had the benefit of watching. I've never been on the sideline for an NFL game, but in college football, I have had the ability to be down there and watch it. And I mean, even college, when you're talking about a big time Division I college football game, you watch it and you're like, holy shit, watching it from TV and then being down on the sideline and watching it, it's amplified by 1,000% the speed. And it just shows how special of a talent all of these guys really are, especially at quarterback. The ability to process the information that they do in that, just tiny amount of time, and the ability to get out of it and bail out and make a play. It's crazy, man. My son always says when he's playing Madden, speed kills, and it does. Speed kills in the NFL. Yeah, you can't go all Al Davis. You have to have the lunch pail players too. But when you have speed in playmaking positions, especially at quarterback, when you can bail out and make plays, I don't care what type of a team you are, that's going to stress out any defense, any defensive coordinator. You don't think Miami's DC is getting some sleepless nights trying to figure out Justin Fields and keeping him contained? They'll say they want to make him a quarterback and keep him in the pocket. That's going to keep DCs up at night.
And so to your point though, right? So it was the fastest play of the week. Yeah. I think that's looking at the numbers right now. That is the 10th fastest play of the season was Justin Fields. Do you know who's at number 7? Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
Chase Claypool at 6'4", 238 pounds, hit almost 21 and a half miles an hour on a 12-yard touchdown run. So you're absolutely right. You've got two guys right now that are top 10 speed guys with the ball in their hands. That is something special that we haven't had.
Gregory's making some predictions. If he gives up 100 yards, I'll fucking take it. That's a win.
I hate to break it to you, but that's kind of what they have done to everybody so far. I mean, those guys are both on pace for over 1,500 yards, I want to feel like.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, they're absolutely going to do that. And there's no there is shame in that. I don't want to say there's no shame in that, but that's what this season has been for those guys. So you look at, what are they averaging? Both of those, Tyreek Hill is averaging 120 yards a game. Yep. Jalen Waddle is averaging 90. So yeah, if he gives up 100 yards, that's kind of on par with everything they've done so far this season.
That doesn't make him a bad player. I mean, I know Kindle.
He's an upgradable player, but he's played fairly solid for the season.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But do you have anything else, Cars, you want to speak on? I know we're pushing the 90-minute mark here.
No, I think that's really it.
Yeah, we covered a lot, and I saw somebody put in there, it's guys, we're gonna have a lot of time to get into Ray Guy passed away. I guess I missed that.
Passed away they were showing that this morning. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've had crazy couple of days, so I've missed.
I don't understand how you could miss that.
A lot of stuff. Yeah.
And especially your favorite position
of
all time. The
absolutely.
punter.
No, they're going through and showing it up here on the Thursday night football game. But there's going to be a ton of time for us to get into free agency, to get into the draft, and there's going to be some interesting positions here because the Bears, like we said, they're not going to spend all of it. Yeah. But I saw somebody bring up a name like Daron Payne. Yeah, that's 100% a dude that's in play. And even if
he's not tagged, he's probably here.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And Cars, if the Bears are drafting 9, and for whatever ridiculous reason, I don't see it happening. But if Jalen Carter is there, those are your 2 interior guys for the next 5
years.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't pass that up. But Will Anderson, it's the same type of thing, and the Bears are going to be able to make some dents. It's not going to be, the Washington Redskins, to use Carr's name that he used. I always say Commanders, but when they go out and sign Dion and then Bruce Smith and
oh god, yeah, all
every other old guy. Yeah, I'm not a Marcus Davenport guy myself. I know DDP, it was a huge Marcus Davenport guy, so I'm sure we will butt heads over that in the offseason. Never been a big Marcus Davenport guy. I know Phil loves him, but yeah, we're gonna have all of that covered here on Cars Keys on TTNL Network. We're gonna, X's with the O's. We'll be breaking it all down for you, and we'll get into Draft Mob here this offseason, which is going to be a great show for you patrons. Head over to the tapeneverlies.com, sign up. $7. Like I said, check it out. And if you guys decide that you don't like it, then you're just out $7, and you can bounce out. But I think any patron that's in the chat room will tell you that it's well worth it. You'll gain access to, like I said, Draft Mob, Cars Keys, the shows that aren't unlocked. Draft Mob, the B this year is Bears Nerd, our guy. It's going to be a lot of fun. Eric Kramer's quarterback class. We're going to have it all covered for you, and you guys know how we do it here at TTNL. I don't think anybody covers the NFL draft and free agency better than we do. We were almost 40 hours of continued coverage over the 3 days or the week leading up, to the NFL draft and during the NFL draft, where
we were all 40 hours nearer to divorce.
Yes, 100%. I did one, 5-hour segment with my daughter over here trying to control her. I was starting to run out of NyQuil darts to force into her neck when people weren't looking. But appreciate all you guys coming out. It's been, like I said, a crazy week, but it doesn't prevent us from putting out quality content here. This is Thursday. Friday is a day for us to kind of sit back and enjoy our family a little bit and not have to worry about putting out a live show. So I think you guys totally understand that. Got a big game coming up on Sunday versus the Miami Dolphins. Chase Claypool gets to make his debut, number 10. Throw up some couple of these edits that came out pretty great.
That. Yeah.
So going to be excited to see this guy in Chicago, down on Soldier Field, making some plays. And do what I said, Getsy. Hit this dude deep. Play one. Fire up this fan base. Let's go. You never know what can happen. So as we say here at Cars Keys every week, what do we say, Cars? I don't know. That just kind of rolled off the tongue, and I have nothing more to say. What do we say here?
I think we say this is the sorest my throat has been after a show because I can actually talk during this one.
Yeah,
so I got to go rest the vocal cords for a little bit. And
I think Phil talked for 4 hours last night. I talked to him a little bit pre-show, and he's like, "Dude, I think I talked the entire show." And I'm like, "You've done that for the past 5 years." So
I don't.
It's all good, bro.
Any different.
Yeah. So don't forget, keeping it 100 next week. Here's a little quick promo, and then we're gonna get out of here. Love you guys. Cars Keys, Season 1, Episode 11.
Get the fuck out of bed, bitch. Go.